Nano Series amps by Hughes&Kettner, spirit of vintage, rock and metal. Are these any good and are they worth the money? Well, I hope this video will answer these questions for you. Speaking of the money, it's $200 in the US for any of the amps and between 180 and 190 euros in Europe at Thomann. As always, my affiliate links below. I'll be getting a small commission from every purchase, which greatly supports the channel at no additional costs to you. I'll quickly unbox one to show you what's inside. So in the box we've got a manual in multiple languages, a power lead, I have the European one because I'm in Europe, a power supply, a 24 volts, 2.5 amps power supply to be exact, looks a lot like a laptop charger, center positive, so don't use this for your pedals, most of them will not like that. And finally, here's the amp. The front panel layout is rather minimalistic. Each of the amp has only 4 knobs and these are self-explanatory: gain, tone, master volume and second, which I'll demonstrate later, guitar input and headphones output. On the back we've got a power supply input, speaker output, line output, auxiliary input and power switch. The advantages are, of course, the size and weight of this thing. We're not talking about the sound yet. And the size will be this much for the width. Here's the height and the depth. If I had to compare this to a pedal, well, here's my HX Stomp and it's bigger. And the weight, at least for the vintage of Spirit, is 714 gram or 1.5 pounds, a little bit more, which is not much at all. Again, where's my HX Stomp? Yeah, this one is heavier. Indeed. Disadvantages? Well, I was kind of negatively surprised about this massive external power supply, which I wish was inside the amp, because I've opened it and I know that it's half empty inside. I will not be disassembling it in this video because I want to keep it as short as possible, but there's definitely more than enough space. So I know why it was done like this, I can imagine why it was done like that, but from the user perspective, I would prefer it to be built into the amp. Then I will need to carry an additional huge brick with me. On the other hand, if this power supply suddenly dies, well, things happen, you could easily replace it with almost exactly the same power supply, and that would be pretty non-invasive. So let me know in the comments, what would you prefer, to have a smaller total size or to have the option to replace the power supply if needed, or even to use your pedal board power supply, because this amp can take any 24 volts, 2 amps, it says here, center positive power supply. My opinion on this, I would rather not have an external brick, which is comparable in size to the amp itself. The amp is rated at 25 watts at 8 ohms, and I must say it is ridiculously loud in the room when connected to a guitar cabinet. Alright, let's listen to what nano amps sound like. What you're about to watch next was actually filmed more than a year ago when I still had that nice Palmer cabinet with Eminence speaker inside. The reason why I'm putting this video together now is because I finally have a technical solution to efficiently AB nano amps with the Black Spirit 200, another solid-state amp by Hughes&Kettner, and one of my favorite amps at the same time. But I'll do that in one of my next videos. In this one, you'll get 2 minutes of each amp, so I'll quickly go through different settings, which will hopefully give you some impression about the amps. It might as well be extremely boring, so proceed at your own risk. Otherwise, if you're about to pull a trigger on one of these, it might as well be of some value. Alright, let's begin with the spirit of vintage. I have it connected to a Palmer cab, loaded with one 12-inch Eminence Governor speaker, which I'm very curious about as well. I have 3 mics in front of the cab. First of all, because I can. Because I can make a clean setup without using any mic stands, thanks to these gravity clamps. And second, because I still don't know which one of these mics I'll be using for the final sound. And the mics are a large membrane condenser, Lewitt LCT441 Flex, a small membrane condenser, Lewitt LCT140 Air, and a dynamic microphone. post-production notice, I ended up using the LCT441 Flex, the large membrane condenser, and a dynamic microphone, hard panned left and right, or vice versa. And keep in mind that the Eminence Governor speaker happened to be a rather dark sounding speaker, so the overall sound here in the video might not be as bright as it would be with, let's say, Vintage 30. But in one of my next videos, I'll connect nano amps to my 2-node Scepter X and use some different impulses, such as you can hear the bright side of those amps as well. The controls are set to 12 o'clock, everything but the master volume, because I cannot make it any louder than this without summoning my neighbors from 3 floors above. This thing is ridiculously loud, but later on I'll connect it to a loud box and push it all the way to demonstrate that. Alright, let's get started. Good, let's go to the next amp. The weight of this amp might as well be a disadvantage. You just saw it dancing on top of that cabinet, and it's simply not heavy enough to stand still. And I only had volume set to 25%. Imagine what would happen if I turned it higher. In the next part, because it was so loud here during the recordings, it was impossible to avoid microphonics, partially because of EMG retroactive pickups. They have a tendency to feedback, and partially because of the distance between the guitar and the amp. As I mentioned in one of my next videos, I'll connect nano amps to my captor, and I promise that will be cleaner. And finally, the spirit of metal. Okay, I think I need another guitar for this one. Alright, that's it for now. I want to ask you to like this video and leave any meaningful comment below. Apparently, YouTube algorithm likes interaction and will then show this video to more people, which can only be a good thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in one of my next videos someday soon.